welcome once again to Caleb Blake's Books. Today I have another book review for you, and that is for Star Wars Death Troopers by Joe Schreiber. This is a Star Wars Legends or Expanded Universe book, and one that I was really looking forward to reading for spooky season. Of course, in October, I have been reading some horror stuff because I like to theme October typically around horror books. And this is pretty much the closest Star Wars has ever gotten to horror. This alongside its prequel, Red Harvest, which I have also read a couple years ago. Really enjoyed Red Harvest, as well as the one other adult novel by Joe Schreiber, which was Mall Lockdown, which was not a horror book, but was a very violent and dark book for Star Wars. But I also really enjoyed that one as well. So I was very excited to read Death Troopers because I really liked the other two Joe Schreiber books that I read and really wanted to see if it could be 3 for 3, like if I really would love all the stuff that he did. And I have to say I did enjoy this book quite a lot. Probably will be a fairly short review because I really don't have a whole lot to talk about, to be completely honest. But I did enjoy this book quite a bit. So first things first, I enjoy the premise of this book, which if you've read Red Harvest, then it's kind of a similar thing. Basically Star Wars with zombies. And both of this book as well as Red Harvest kind of do different premises, but kind of work with the same idea of Star Wars with zombies. With Red Harvest, it was basically the origins of the zombie virus that you see in this book. And in this book is there is this Imperial prison ship during the Imperial era, about a year before A New Hope, that is just in the middle of nowhere in space and comes across this derelict Star Destroyer that they go to see if it can help them along, get some aid sent to them, or find any supplies or anything. And it turns out that this Star Destroyer is carrying this zombie virus, which then infects the prison ship and all the people on it, and things just kind of go worse and worse from there. Which is a fun premise. It's very different for Star Wars, zombies in Star Wars. Not that Star Wars is completely, zombies are never involved because there's things like the Clone Wars that have brought them in and stuff, but this is like straight up just zombies, and it's a lot of fun. But I really enjoy just the idea of this book because it's so unique and different, and it's become kind of a very iconic book for that reason. A lot of people really like this book and really like this premise because it's so different and unique for Star Wars. But I think that it makes for a book that is pretty much exactly, like that premise is exactly what you get with this book. You don't really get anything real fancy. You don't get really exciting and deep plot. You don't get really interesting characters. You don't get really deep themes. Like everything here is good. Like the plot is good. The characters are, decent. Everything in that sense is pretty, just fine, serviceable. But this book is pretty much just a vessel. Like all of the story and characters and everything is just a vessel to get you a lot of action, a lot of zombies and everything. So it's really just, that premise of Star Wars with zombies. That's pretty much what you're getting with this book. So as far as achieving what it sets out to do, I think this book does that very well. As far as other things that I did like about this book, I do think the characters were actually decent. I probably prefer the character work in this book over Red Harvest. Red Harvest really didn't have any characters except for maybe the Sith Lord in that book that were that interesting to me. Whereas in this book, there weren't any characters that I really loved. But there were a few that were kind of interesting. I enjoyed their interactions with each other. And there are also a couple of specific cameo-type characters. Although calling them a cameo is not really accurate because they make up a significant portion of, the characters in this book, because there's only really a handful of main characters, and they are two primary ones that come in the second half of the book, which I'm not going to say who those characters are because it is kind of a spoiler, I guess. But it is a fun, way that those characters are thrown into this book. And I think that I had heard they were in it prior, and I thought it was kind of, it was kind of silly that it's like, oh, we just have to include some already pre-established characters in this book. Like, really, it can't just all be new characters. But I think the way that they're introduced and the way they're utilized works pretty well. I would have probably still preferred all original characters, kind of like Red Harvest. But I do think that it was fine in this book. And that's pretty much all the good things I have to say about this book, which isn't much, but like this book was just very fun and action-packed and exciting, and I really liked just the atmosphere of this book. I feel like it was a very atmospheric read at some points, where it just had this sense of dread to it that I really enjoyed. I'm not a huge fan of like straight up really scary horror. I like stuff kind of like this, although not quite like this. Zombies aren't quite my thing, but I like that feeling of dread and unease and things like that, which this book really delivers on. As far as negatives for this book, really the only thing is the characters and the plot and things are not that strong, but I don't really think they need to be. So just as long as you go into this book knowing what you're gonna get and being okay with that, I think you'll enjoy it, because this book isn't meant to be anything real big and fancy. It's not supposed to be some deep character study or a book with really intriguing themes or anything like that. It's just fun Star Wars adventure with zombies. And if you go into it expecting that, that is exactly what you're gonna get. As far as anything else, this book was a little bit gruesome and gory for my liking. I think even more so than Red Harvest, and debatably, I would say even more so than Mall Lockdown, which is impressive, but which isn't my thing. You know, I'm not a fan of really gruesome, gory violence. I don't mind violence, I just don't really, you know, something on this level where it's just very gross and gruesome and over the top is not quite my thing, but it definitely leaves an impact, because there are certain things it described in this book that I think are going to stick in my memory, such as there's a chapter called, I think, Skin Hill, which that imagery is going to stick with me for a while, I think. Yeah, that generally, you know, it's not my thing, but it's not really a problem, it's just not to my taste. But that's really the only other issue with this book. Like, there's not really anything here that I didn't like. You know, it's just a fun adventure that doesn't, it's, the way that I described this, I would say in like a sentence, is it's very shallow, but it's very entertaining. So there's not really anything real deep to it, but if you're just looking for something fun, something unique for Star Wars, and you like zombies, then you'll probably enjoy this book a lot. And I will say, even though I'm not much of a zombie person, I did enjoy this book quite a lot, because it was just a very entertaining and very exciting read. So as far as a rating out of 10 that I would give Death Troopers, I would give it a 9 out of 10, which, again, not because it's like the best book I've ever read or anything, but just on pure entertainment value, it was very high with this book, I think. So I really enjoyed it quite a lot. So let me know in the comments what you thought of this book, if you have read it, if you also really liked it, or if you're not much of a fan of it, or whatever. I know it's kind of a divisive book. Like, a lot of people seem to like the ideas behind this book and everything, but a lot of people just don't think it's that great of a book. So if you happen to be on one side or the other of that discussion, let me know. And also let me know what your favorite of Joe Schreiber's 3 adult Star Wars novels in the EU is. As far as myself, I'd probably go with Mall Lockdown, but it's kind of hard to say, because I really enjoyed all 3 of them. So it's hard for me to pick a favorite. But let me know if this happens to be your favorite of them, or your least favorite, or whatever. Let me know that in the comments as well. So that's pretty much it for this video. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.